Hello and welcome to all of my colleagues. My name is Cathy Knoll and I'm a board certified music therapist talking with you today a bit about using acoustic instruments in music therapy for young children, for toddlers and preschoolers. The advancements in both hardware and software have really broadened the pool, the accessibility of music, of being able to help young children, no matter their level of ability or disability, be able to participate in music making. And this is so exciting to see all of these advancements. When I first started in the field as a young freshman music therapy major at Texas Women's University in 1969, there were very few instruments that plugged in or that used batteries. Um, and for certain, there was no such thing as an internet connection. If we wanted to copy music, we hand copied it. If we wanted to make visuals for music therapy, then we used manila paper and crayons and scissors and Elmer's glue and a funky thing called rubber cement. Um, if sometimes when I would call families to confirm a music therapy session, I would go down into the living room of my dorm at the university and drop a quarter in a slot in the phone and dial a number, and then a phone would ring and someone would pick it up and answer. So it was just different days. We used manual typewriters that had these little ribbons that you had to make sure all of that worked, and that's how we typed our assessments and our progress notes. And if we wanted copies, then we put carbon paper in between those. There was no such thing as a CD or an iPod or a laptop or email and the word online. None of those words had even been conceived yet at that point in time. But despite those limitations, we were able to present, of course, interesting and accessible music experiences in music therapy for young children. And we were then, just as we are now, able to assess each youngster's unique needs, to develop a usable plan of action with target objectives, along with their teachers or parents or clinic, whatever setting we were working with the youngsters in, and then use music to encourage participation and to cooperation, and help develop, shape a person's attitude and their attention and their skills as needed to help them function better in their daily lives. And so all of these advances in technology that we have had since then have definitely resulted in state-of-the-art software and hardware, and much more is certainly to come. And it all makes a positive impact in music making for youngsters. And acoustic instruments, of course, are part of that mix. They're part of what we have in our music therapy bags. So we're going to take a look today at a few positive aspects, a few reasons, compelling reasons to utilize acoustic instruments in music therapy. And one is that many early childhood youngsters, young children, are exposed to, they're somewhat surrounded by sound, if you will. They're exposed throughout the day to electronic music, from toys and from television and radios, car radios and videos and cell phones and other sources in their environments, pretty much 24/7 or a lot of the time. And acoustic instruments can provide somewhat of a unique sound, somewhat of a different sound, and a break from the electronic sound. And also, acoustic instruments can provide opportunities for young children to develop more sophisticated motor skills than can a touchpad. So, for example, blowing in a harmonica, fingering a flute, or playing a real piano, strumming a guitar, or tapping a drum. Uh, they engage the person more completely in the production of the music. and can provide opportunities for addressing music therapy objectives that are related to motor skills. And so that's one thing to consider when looking at acoustic instruments. Acoustic instruments provide somewhat of a unique sensory feedback when a person's making music. So I work with many, many youngsters with a diagnosis with autism, and many of the youngsters love to hold, kind of hug the guitar, and so they can feel the guitar, they can feel the music all around them and inside. They even lay their heads down, and so they can feel it in their midsection and in their arms and on their legs. It's just a total sort of a total sensory experience. And then others, of course, with autism don't like the sensory, so they actually lay theirs flat on a table to strum the guitar rather than holding it. So we, as music therapists, of course, we want to respond to each person's individual needs and not just make everyone fit into the same envelope. There's also an awe factor that's really hard to measure. It's a real phenomenon that I see nearly every day in music therapy. For example, inattentive children, children who are just very, not connected seemingly with the world around them, will tend to stop and look. When I come in, every week I have, for music therapy, I have a zippered bag or a box or different things different weeks, and they'll come over and notice, and they'll maybe want to zip. They like that sound, and we sing zippity doo dah, and I put this on so they can help do it even if they have motor limitations. Zippity, and then there's something musical inside of there that they're going to get to play, and so there's sort of an aha factor involved in opening a guitar case. I do that at the beginning of every music therapy session because I use guitar a lot, and the kid will run over to be able to zip the guitar case and carry it over to the table by themselves, and so there are a lot of wonderment, if you will, that dawns on the faces whenever we put an instrument in front of the youngster and they touch it and it makes a sound. There's also a job security factor in acoustic instruments. It's amazing. It's interesting that parents and grandparents and special ed directors and clinical directors and state auditors and other people who are decision makers and administrators, they're often just totally amazed whenever a youngster, 4-year-old, let's say, for example, in his wheelchair, rolls himself out onto the stage, lands right in front of a real piano, maybe even a grand piano if it's at the university on a stage for a talent show or something, and the youngster puts his hands up on the keyboard and plays a song, even if it's something very, very simple. It's just, there's something about that is that can really help people understand in a 10-second period how cool music therapy is and what an impact it can have on a person. It's just a real good visual report of the effectiveness of music therapy. People will stare in disbelief if there's an observer in a classroom with a youngster who's an early childhood classroom of a youngster who's very, very, very agitated. I have a number of youngsters who really struggle with some significant issues in life, and when that little preschooler will pause whenever I put the guitar in their lap or the banjo or drumsticks, and they sort of pause and look up at me and maybe even touch and strum the guitar and maybe even smile, a bit of a smile or calmness comes about them. And so that, again, it's just a very quick visual a view of being able to show how much music can impact a kid's outlook on life. So that it's also really fun to watch a whole bunch of early childhood kids, 3 or 4 or 5 of them, that are really, really press the behavior limits, and how they'll all sit there and hold their drumsticks on their shoulder and hold their drums ready to play, and they won't play until I tell them to play, and then they play along, and then whenever the song's over, we sing This Old Man or whatever, and whenever it's over, that they all stop and rest and look at me, and it's like, whoa, did you see that? It's almost like a miracle. And so using instruments that people are familiar with, in this case a piano or guitar or drums, it really helps everyone understand that youngster is actually involved in the actual music making. Um, and they do notice that, and they remember the word music therapy for a very long time if they're administrators. So all of that, of course, is to say that music therapists need to explore all options. We don't want to do just one type of music or one type of musical instrument or anything. And we want to develop and implement music experiences that really focus on that youngster's needs, where they are now, and where they need to move in the future. So whether we're using the latest iPad app or traditional piano, whatever, we want to we really want to consider the vast scope of instruments that are available to us as music therapists. So we're going to look at just a few tried and true strategies that I've been using over the years, just to give some ideas of how to use a couple of very traditional acoustic music instruments. And we'll start with the guitar. And all my ukuleles, baritone ukes and ukes, are being used at Vacation Bible School this week, and so we're going to pretend like this is a baritone ukulele. And one of the things that I do a whole lot in early childhood music therapy is pre-tuned, open tuning guitars. So they're just open tuned to a C chord usually, but whatever. Have an open tune guitar. So all the kid really has to do is hold it and strum it. And the first thing, of course, is to know when to start and when to stop. So there are songs, of course, that really typically use just about one chord. So row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And again, the kid might use initially any old rhythm or whatever, but we get it to where they start when we start singing and they stop when we stop singing. Are you sleeping? Are you sleeping, Brother John? And these all work well in ensembles, of course, or individual playing guitar, or an ensemble, other guitars, or tone bells, or whatever. Lots of options. Make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver and the other gold. Of course, they all love Sweetly Sings the Donkey because they like to say, yee-haw. One parent said, oh, I was so thrilled to write his grandmother to say what was his very first word he ever spoke? Was hee-haw. After he sang this, or after he kind of was playing along with this song. And that's the first word he ever said was hee-haw. And so sweetly sings the donkey at the break of day. If you do not feed him, this is what he'll say. Hee-haw, 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 hee-haw. Kids will pay, if they'll pay attention, I'll do most anything to get some of my youngsters to even know that there's another person in the room. It's kind of an important thing together. We do a lot of theme-based. The way I approach music therapy is sort of along a theme base. So if music is our theme, we might have a band. They love this picture of this girl with the tuba. And the youngsters will pick, one youngster will be the leader, and he has the guitar, or she has the guitar, and the other kids, these are out of the notebook, they're loose cards, and each kid will pick which instrument they want, and then we just sing a fun little song to have them join in the band. Like, we are fine musicians, we practice every day, and people come from miles around just to hear us play. So the director plays the guitar, and the other instruments play. The other kids hold their instruments and show what they have, and then he says rest at the end. We also have kids who play, well, here's another fun song, is Bugs. Bugs is another great theme. Kids love to do things about bugs. So we have all kinds of bugs, ladybugs and bees and whatever, all kinds of different yucky bugs. And so we made up a little kind of a jazzy kind of song that they can play, a little jazz band. Again, it's just adapted to one chord where the kids can play along with just an open-tuned guitar, either several kids all at one time or just the leader. And so we sing, bugs bug me, yes they do. Bugs bug me, yes they do. And then I just adapted the melody here. They creep and they crawl on the floor and the wall. Bugs bug me, yes they do. The buggy blues. Shh, shh, shh. So I always have something in the song where they're having to do something besides just sit there and randomly strum. We try to get more structure into the songs. The buggy blues. Shh, shh, shh. The buggy blues. And a kid might be playing the guiro or the cabasa, or they might be playing drums during that shh, shh, shh time. And then the big bad bug and bug me blue. Da, 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 dum, ba, dum, bum. Yeah. So just anything that you can do to kind of make something very musical. It doesn't have to be an extremely simple, childish melody. It can be a little bit more sophisticated melody that's just adapted to one chord so that the kids can play along. They're not just sitting there listening to you play while you're playing all these cool chords. And it's like, well, yeah, but we want to play too. So helping the kids be part of the music making process. Also take familiar songs and sort of adapt the melody, the familiar melody, to where it fits with a one chord accompaniment. And some people might not consider this very musical, but it works very well for the kids. And they go, oh, I know that song, and then they can play along with it, even though the melody, I've adapted the melody just a little bit. So just for an example, we use a banjo. Kids love the banjo. Again, it makes a lot of sound, and they love the drum. We have a little strap that helps them hold it, or else I'll help them hold it. But they get to play. So, for example, Oh Susanna uses lots of chord changes, but we just kind of stick with it with one chord, adapting the melody a little bit. So you sing, oh, I came from Alabama with a banjo on my knee, going to Louisiana, my true love for to see. Oh, Susanna, don't you cry for me, going to Louisiana with my banjo on my knee. I love that part. And then we slap the guitar or the banjo to make it stop. So again, that's a familiar melody, but we just change it where it fits musically with just a one chord accompaniment. And it's very similar. I think kids are born knowing the song Bingo, B-I-N-G-O. They love to, our whole unit about dogs, there are lots and lots of fun songs about dogs and lots of fun things that you can do that are related to dogs. There's You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog. But the song Bingo, B-I-N-G-O, there's our bingo. And so I just adapted that song where it fits with just one chord also. So sing, there was a farmer, had a dog, and Bingo was his name, oh. And then during this part, they rest. B-I-N-G-O, B-I-N-G-O, B-I-N-G-O. Bingo was his name, oh. So they don't play again until they hear me say, oh. There was a farmer, had a dog, and Bingo was his name, oh. B-I-N-G-O, 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 and Bingo was his name, oh. So that helps the kid be able to play guitar right along with the song, but not having to change chords. Many of the youngsters that I have are very, very limited in their abilities, and so changing chords either motorically or cognitively or emotionally focus on the chord changes is just too challenging for them when they're in their early childhood stages. And another song that I just, to me, every kid should be able to play for their grandmother, even if they're not able to talk or sing themselves, if they play Happy Birthday. And the way I adapt that is not changing the melody because everyone knows the same melody. So the thing is that we only strum on the word birthday, and it actually works. So we say, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Grandma. Happy birthday to you. And then they like the ending. And many more. Like that. So that gives a child, a youngster an opportunity, even a kid with very limited abilities, to play Happy Birthday for his mother or grandmother. And I can't tell you how many people that's touched their hearts in major ways. So anything that we can do as music therapists to help enhance the quality of life of the people around our kids with special needs is probably pretty important. There are some kids, of course, I mean, a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old with typical motor skills and cognitive skills can play great, many chords on guitar and learn to play pretty sophisticated guitar. But even kids who just have are a little bit more limited can learn to play songs where they change chords in the middle of the song, where there are one or two chord changes. And for that, I use ukuleles or guitars that have a color cue if the kid needs a color cue. Some of them don't. Some of them I can tell them this is a C chord and they know it. They can play a full C chord the rest of their lives if they're 4 or 5 years old, but there are others who can't. And so we use a red C chord and a G chord, and they just strum partial chord just down at the bottom strings. And then they can learn to change chords on a certain word cue. For example, they'll play Skip to My Lou. They play skip. That really isn't a word cue, though. For a word cue, let's see. How about... What if we did like, oh, I went down south for to see my Sal, singing Polly Wolly Doodle all the day. So whenever you hear the word day, you change to the blue chord, either with this finger or that. My Sal, she is a spunky gal, singing Polly Wolly Doodle all the day. So their word cue is day. On the word day, they change to the different chord. And that way a kid can just either watch me and change when I watch, or they can listen for that cue. We use a lot of books that are based upon songs, lots of really beautiful illustrations, and something the kid can take home and listen to, a CD with my singing along, and they're following along, even if they're not readers. They can enjoy books like this. And then to be able to play this song on the guitar, the music is, I think, on this one, it's at the beginning of the song, of the book. No, maybe not. But many of the books, oh, here it is. Many of the books do have the music in the book so that their family members can sing along with them, even if they're not able to sing. And so it's in Hush Little Baby, Don't Say a Word. So there's just one chord change in each verse. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. If that mockingbird don't sing, Mama's gonna buy you a diamond ring, or whatever. So there are a lot of songs that just use real simple chord changes. Skip to My Lou changes on each sentence, at the beginning of each sentence. And again, another great book that kids love, and it has the music written in it. And it's very clever because the young man and all of the animals in the farm really make a mess at home, so the kids really enjoy that. And it's a good song to use for cues, for auditory word cues, for changing chords. So we don't have to stop the song in the middle and say, okay, Johnny, now change to a C chord. You don't want to constantly be interrupting the music. So you want to find music that has cues within the music itself. So it's skip, skip, skip to my Lou, skip, skip, skip to my Lou, skip, skip, Skip to my loo, my darling. So at the beginning of each sentence, the chord changes to a new chord. And a lot of kids are able to follow along with that, either on their own, listening, or by watching and playing along with me. So those are just a few ideas with guitar that you can take a look at. We're going to take a quick look at piano. And I'm not going to move everything over to that piano. And so even though we're talking about acoustic instruments, I'm going to use a keyboard, electronic keyboard, as the example, just to show you a few things. I like to, when we first start on the piano, is have the kid learn how to sit at the bench, find where they want to sit on the bench, or if they pull the wheelchair up, how to hold their hands on the piano. And we usually start with black notes because of pentatonic scale, and it just really helps the kid be able to play a song the very first day they come for music therapy. They don't have to wait and wait and wait and learn all this theory and learn all sorts of stuff. They can go ahead and learn a song. And so one of the songs that the kids love playing is based on our zoo theme. Again, another universally popular theme. And if you look at songs about lions, we talk about this helps the kids learn the upper register of the piano and the lower register of the piano. And we do this really fun song on the 3 black notes, and they can actually pick. I like to let youngsters with special needs have their own choices a lot, and so they can pick any song on the lower part of the piano in the bass part of the piano. We do this fun song that just uses the 3 black notes, so they can find any group of 3 black notes that they want. And let's say they use the lowest one, and so they'll sing, "Look at the lion, the majestic lion, the king of the jungle. He rules over all. He roars very loud." And that allows them to bang on the piano. And we learned that when we play piano, we play with one finger. We do not bang on the piano. But for that one song, they're able to do that. So it gives the kids some structure, but allows them a little bit of improvisation that they enjoy. We also do a lot of songs. I adapt a lot of songs to just an ascending and descending scale. Again, some kids know that this letter is C and that, go to D, E, F, G, etc. And some kids just know to start on the red star and go up to the next red star and come back down again. So we do like, "Hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon, the little dog left to see such a sport, and the dish ran away with the spoon," or whatever. And you can take almost any song and make it fit within that little melody and help the kids learn to play the next note, not to skip any notes. Some kids are able to play rhythmically and some not, so you can really adapt that to a lot of different kids with different abilities. And back to our zoo book, we'll look at a giraffe song that's really fun. The kids really like. Of course, they have very, very long necks. And so we do this fun song about the giraffe and his very long neck. Okay, and the kids start on C. I have a lot of kids who are verbal but can't even say the word giraffe who can play this song. The giraffe has a very, very long neck. His neck makes a giraffe very, very tall. And then on this one, we start back at the bottom again. If I climbed to the top of his head, I would sit very still, so I would not fall. And then they get to do a little glissando down, which is harder than it looks for a lot of youngsters. The reason I like an acoustic, a typical piano over an electronic piano is it requires much firmer and more specific motor pressure than does an electronic instrument. You just barely touch it and it makes music. So it's a real good learning. A typical piano has a lot of good motor advantages as well. I love to have the kids learn some rote melodies, and probably the most popular of all, if you just start on this red C and go up to this red C and then go down to the G, and that's all they learn. Actually, most of my youngsters, that may be all they can learn, but everyone recognizes that melody, so it's really fun. So you find a melody that fits within the culture of your youngsters, that's very, very familiar to those kiddos and their families and their teachers and the people around them, and then you teach them just a little key part of that melody, and then it's really rewarding, musically, for the youngster. So again, here. Over the rainbow. And many, many of my youngsters will never learn more than that. But just knowing that much brings tears to their parents' eyes, and a lot of self-satisfaction, to them. There's so many word cues. We were talking about word cues in music. There's so many. If you do Valentine's, if you there a lot of I have many 3, 4, 5-year-old kids who can follow letter cues. Some of them I have to cover it or point to one note at a time, but they can learn to play letter cued melodies and even regular note reading. They're just every kid has such different abilities and disabilities, and it's not necessarily that if they're not verbal that they aren't going to learn to read music. The world doesn't work that way. Some kids I have who are 25 years old that are still nonverbal, and some of them can read music, treble clef, bass clef, play songs on the piano, and some can barely tap a drum, and so hold a stick and hit and tap a drum. So you just never know where a person's going to be. So we take if you take that old song, I Love the Mountains, it just starts on a C, and every time I say the word I, you play a new note. So it's I love the mountains, I love the rolling hills, I love the flowers, I love the daffodils, I love the fireside, I love the lights down low, and I love you. And you can do it. Some kids can. You can play you can play the accompaniment with them, so you play a little duet, and some can't. It just depends, but it allows you that opportunity to find out where your kid is. Help them develop a new skill each week and see if eventually maybe they can do that. We've adapted those words, and one kid said one time, "What's a daffodil?" And so I realized that we maybe needed to change, or I had a boy say, "I don't love any girl," and so we kind of made up our own version of it, and it says, "I like my friends, and I like my family. I like to explore. I like lovey-dovey. I like to smile. I like to be silly." And then, of course, you got to add the drums. Boom-de-yada, boom-de-yada. And so they can play the drums, or have someone else play the drums, or whatever. It really works. It's really fun. Transportation, that's another good theme. A lot of kids helps them develop the vocabulary and interest and focus, paying attention to what's going on. Some of my kids are really good artists. It's amazing. I ought to do a whole book sometime with their art. Some can follow, again, the letter cues or the written cues. Some kids, again, just learn little patterns. And so he uses Sailor Jack is just one example of many, many that we might use, where they can play the piano along with the song. Instead of my playing, the therapist or teacher always playing everything for the kids, have the kids play it, play songs. So it's a Sailor Jack, where have you been? Around the world and back again. Sailor Jack, how did you sail? I rode on the back of a humpbacked whale. So they can play, again, they're playing the song, but really all they're doing is just going up and back down again. But musically, it's very cool. So it's really a good way to help kids participate in real music making on acoustic instruments, real traditional. Whoops, there goes the banjo. Traditional instruments, and but without having to take years of instruction to do so. And last, we're going to look just very quickly here at snare drums, and there are tons and tons of different kinds of drums available, and I love that to all of our kids. They just there's so many neat things that ways that we can help kids make music. I like to use just a regular old ordinary snare drums with a lot of my youngsters in music therapy because again, kind of the prestige of being able to play what they call a real drum is kind of fun. They love the other drums too, but they really enjoy being able to play drums like the kids in the high school and college band do when we have a parade here in town or whatever. So one thing that I have them do is, have a drum bag, and some play on the drum pad. And if I'm traveling, I can't carry all this around with me, so I have a lot of drum pads. And I let the kids pick their drumsticks, and I use regular drumsticks. For those kids who might destroy someone with this drumstick, I have softer mallets that still make a good sound on the drum. And I always kind of mix them up so that the kids have to pick two that match. I have small ones and larger ones. Sometimes the physical therapist and OT have special things that different sizes or weights that they want me to use. And so they've picked whichever drumstick they want. And I guess you can probably guess that the red ones are very popular. You can tell they're kind of beat up. And so we demonstrate to them, how to. Well, first of all, just making it accessible. If a kid's in a wheelchair, they might have a taller drum. If they're standing, they might have a little bit shorter drum. It just depends on how tall a kid is. There's a lot of variation between a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old in their size. But I usually have kids, if they're able to stand to play snare drums, and rather than sitting, and showing them how to hold instead of at the end. How all kids always want to hold the drumsticks like this, and how to hold. We have lightning on the drums. And so I'm not a major percussionist, so I just kind of teach some basic things. But it's really fun for the kids. I teach them, the first thing that I teach them is when to play, and you can play with one stick or whatever, and play in the middle of the drum, or to rest. And some kids we teach to rest like this, and some we teach to rest like this. And then once we have that down, then we just play some songs. We just play along and, have them play like, let us play the drum today, let us play the drum today, hey, 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 let us play the drum today. And where they can kind of pick whatever they want. But when it's rest, when it's the end of the song, that they stop. So the first thing we teach is how to play and how to stop. And then we might teach how to play on certain beats, certain rhythms. But some kids are not able to do that very well, and so we might teach them just to play on certain words again. So, for example, another kind of well-known song has to do with ants. They like these ants. It's like they can adopt an ant colony if they want to. And here they pick an ant. Different kids in the group will pick which ant they want, and we'll start out with one ant on here, and we say, the ants go marching one by one, hoorah, hoorah. And so we might, for example, play on the word hoorah. So we rest and play only on the word hoorah. The ants go marching one by one, hoorah, hoorah. The ants go marching one by one, hoorah, hoorah. Then they have to wait a really long time. The ants go marching one by one, the little one stops to play his drum, and they all go marching down to the ground to get out of the rain. And then, of course, we play on boom, 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 boom. And I might teach them a certain pattern, or it may just be whatever they want to do, as long as they play in the middle of the drum, boom, 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 and rest. Okay, so we always teach the kids, most important thing any music teacher, music therapist can teach a kid is when to rest. It's an important part of our music and music therapy, music making and music therapy. So those are just a few ideas. I know I went through them kind of fast, but just wanted to kind of cover a wide variety of ways that we can utilize acoustic instruments in music therapy. And I welcome your input. My email address will be in the Imagine magazine. It's produced by American Music Therapy Association, and so please feel free to send me your ideas or questions or thoughts. And meanwhile, happy music making, and thank you for joining us.